this presentation you will be shown what you need to know in order to produce high quality clear maps using GIS that are fit for purpose. By the end of the session you will know how to access the Nottingham City Council bespoke map templates, know how to determine which is the most appropriate map base for your maps, ensure that you have the necessary copyright for your maps, and know how to accurately record where you have stored your map. Before producing a map, it is important to work out what the purpose of the map is. Who is the target audience? To whom and how is the map going to be circulated? For example, is it to be used in web applications, included in a publication, or circulated as a hard copy? Is the map going to be reproduced in colour or in black and white? What size is the map going to be produced at? Are there any caveats to the data that need to be made clear in the map? Do you understand the data that needs to be displayed? Do references need to be made to the metadata? If the map is to be used in a publication, Nottingham City Council's GIS team can support you to ensure that the authority has met the necessary legal requirements. The GIS team has set up a number of corporate map templates to be used by all GIS users. This is to ensure a consistent look and feel to all the maps created by GIS users at Nottingham City Council. All the map templates contain a north arrow, file path, title, scale bar, and an empty key or legend. By default, all templates contain an Ordnance Survey copyright acknowledgement. There is additional information later on in this presentation which will explain in more detail about copyright acknowledgements. It's important to ensure that any other third-party datasets have the appropriate copyright acknowledgements also. Using the corporate templates for map production ensures that the maps will look professional and can easily be identified as being produced by Nottingham City Council. For full information on how to create maps in ArcGIS, it is recommended that you take a look at the training courses at GIS 24/7. Specifically refer to Section 8, which is titled The Layout Page of the Beginner's Guide to ArcGIS 10 course, or Section 9 of the Mastering ArcGIS 10 course. The corporate map templates for Nottingham City Council are easily accessed from inside the ArcGIS or ArcMap software. Maps are created using the special layout toolbar that is available. To use a map template, simply on the layout toolbar inside ArcGIS, use the Change Layout tool. Clicking on this tool will open up a new window, and when you browse for templates in ArcMap, by default you will be directed to our corporate set of templates which are available on H. Select the appropriate size and either landscape or portrait. The data that is used to create a map based on the template that is chosen can be from one of a wide range of map bases that is available at Nottingham City Council. The type of data that can be used as the map base can be raster or vector, or both. Both types of data sets are available at various scales. Which type is better depends on the map that you're trying to produce. In summary, raster data is made up of images, whereas vector data comprises lines, polygons and points. Vector datasets contain attribute tables as well. More information on what is raster data and vector data and the differences between them can be found on the GIS 24/7's GIS Essentials presentations, which are titled The Raster Data Model and the Vector Data Model. Some examples of the different data types and base maps that are available to use at Nottingham City Council for creating maps include aerial photography, which is available back to 1940 and more recently to 2009. This is raster data. Master map, which is vector data and is used for large scales. It is recommended to use master map between 1 to 1250 and 1 to 10,000 scale. Master map is based on the national grid and includes topographic information representing a huge array of real-world objects. Ordnance Survey data is available in both black and white and colour at different scales, 10,000 to 250,000, which is available as a raster layer. Historical data, which dates back to 1875 through to 1946, again which is raster data. All the base map datasets are available on HData Esri in either the base mapping, aerial, historic or master map folders. In selecting an appropriate map base, there are several considerations to be made. What scale is the map to be shown at? Are you viewing the data citywide, at ward level or perhaps street level? Understanding scale is an important part of choosing an appropriate map base. A large-scale map, for example 1 to 1250, will generally show far more detail than a smaller map scale, 1 to 50,000. The positional accuracy of data on large-scale mapping, for example master map, will make it appropriate for street level. However, at ward level this will appear very cluttered. To show spatial information at a smaller scale, cartographers create simpler maps by selecting from larger scale information. Sometimes the position of features will be altered from its true position to make space for map symbols. The science of producing small-scale maps is known as generalization. Recommended scales for different datasets are set out in the online documentation. Guidelines for the use of third-party geographical information, which is available on Nottingham City Council's intranet. It is recommended that when you are using raster data in your maps, for example A to Z data or Ordnance Survey data, that you set a transparency on the data. This will make the data appear paler, so additional layers can be overlaid on top of this and they will look clear. To set a transparency, simply in ArcGIS right-click on the layer and choose Properties, and on the Properties dialog use the Display tab and set the transparency. Normally this should be set to around 30%. If you are using vector data in your maps, for example master map data, you can again set a transparency. A transparency on the master map data can be seen in the example on the right. However, vector data consists of polygons, lines and points, and within master map this is set up as a group layer. Component layers of the group may be symbolised and displayed independently of other layers in the group. For example, you can change the symbology of the roads if you want to make those more prominent in your map, as shown here. Vector data contains attributes. This is useful if you are carrying out analysis and want to interrogate the dataset to create a selection to show only the features you are interested in. For example, you may be working in Nottingham City Council's education services and wanting to identify existing facilities aimed at young people. This can be achieved by combining local datasets and attributes within the base mapping. You will need to consider when you produce a map whether it's going to be printed, if so at what size and whether it is to be included in a publication. Many datasets have predetermined scale ranges for displaying in ArcMap. However, as you create your map, you may find that you change the predetermined scales. If you are printing a map, you need to be aware that if you are not viewing a raster dataset at its correct scale, you may experience pixelation, as shown in the example. In this example, at a larger scale, it is more appropriate to use master map data. Please refer to Nottingham City Council's intranet for further guidance. Vector datasets can appear very cluttered when viewed at an inappropriate scale. For example, viewing master map at a large scale, zoomed out, is too congested and clarity is lost. Using the base mapping that is available at 1 to 10,000 is much easier to read when displayed at this sort of scale. It is important that you complete the fields on your map that show the date and file path. The inclusion of a date reflects that the map is a snapshot in time and may later be superseded by more recent data. By ensuring you have a file path, colleagues can find the location of the map if additional copies are required, or if perhaps amendments need to be made to the original. Various third-party datasets need to be given appropriate copyright acknowledgement when their datasets are used in maps. It is important that all GIS users adhere to the copyrights as set out in the online document detailing the guidelines for the use of third-party geographical information. Infringements of the copyright could lead to fines. Copyrights do not only refer to base mapping, but other datasets including mosaic, census data, flood data, indices and multiple deprivation, natural England data, and a whole array of other datasets. By default, all templates are set up with the Ordnance Survey copyright acknowledgement, but if you are using other datasets, for example aerial photography, you need to ensure you manually add the appropriate copyright. These can be copied and pasted into the map document from the online documentation. It is worth familiarising yourself with the various third-party datasets that are available and what restrictions, if any, apply when publishing the data. A to Z mapping again needs its own copyright acknowledgement, but can be used for internal publications and must not be used for external publications without first applying for and obtaining a publishing licence. If you are using A to Z and are looking to publish externally, you will need to contact the GIS team. If you are not sure about what copyright is required on any of your maps, please contact Nottingham City Council's GIS team and we can offer you advice. The final consideration is to review whether there are any caveats to inform those who will be using the map. There are perhaps limitations with the data, notes in the metadata that need to be included on the map. For example, if you're using data and perhaps only 80% of the data is accurately geocoded, you may want to include this information as a piece of text on the map. Does the map meet the requirements that were outlined at the outset, and is the map clear to interpret? Before a map is perhaps circulated or it is to be included in a publication, it's always worth having a second opinion. Ask a colleague, another team, whether the map is clearly labelled, whether it is easy to interpret, and whether it meets the requirements of its original brief.